Go ahead.
All righty. Hey there. Hi,
Hey.
folks. Welcome to another episode of A Journey Through Photography with myself, Kenneth Nelson. I'm here with my good friends, Mark Skinner and Greg Cleghorn. Today, we're going to just speak to, hopefully, this will be real quick, if not 10, 15 minutes or so. But what we want to do is just deal with semantics in photography and specifically word usage. And this comes about from my observation over the years that the transferability of the three terms that are typically used in describing what is known as a photograph. So we have the word photograph, we have something called an image, and then we have something called a picture. And so in this episode, we're going to try and define which each one means to us and what may come about as you use the words in your everyday usage in terms of how you describe a photograph that you've taken or a photograph that you're seeing or any of that nature. So what I want to do is I want to start off by giving and showing just the three definitions as determined by Webster. So the in Webster, the description of a photograph is a picture or likeness obtained by photography. It's relatively simple, so it's not too difficult to understand that, right? Something from a photograph. The definition of a picture says that a design or representation made by various means, such as a painting, drawing, or photography. That's the first definition. And the second one is a description so vivid or graphic as to suggest a mental image or give an accurate idea of something. So, right there, we have the difference between a photograph and a picture. And the last one I want to discuss is image. And so we'll just read the definition of image, which is a visual representation of something such as a likeness of an object produced on a photographic material or a picture produced in an electronic display, such as a television or computer screen. So this is just to go over how we describe words and whether it presents some difficulty in trying to explain to others or it just creates certain conflicts in understanding what we're trying to get across when we're showing someone a photograph, a picture, or an image. So with that, I'm going to lead it off to Mark to start the conversation and to talk about what he brings to the table when he speaks to these three words. Mark.
Now, I tend to personally use the three of these words interchangeably, but when you presented this and said, how do you discern between the three? I thought about it and I found an image in the Wall Street Journal a couple of weeks ago, actually it was last week. And this is the image that I found. It's a really good advertisement for IBM. And I'll read the copy because it's too
I'm
small. It
sorry.
says, what if year after year you had one goal to grow the game of golf? So you work with IBM Consulting and use Watson to help create innovative personal experiences built to give fans deeper insights into every player, every hole, every swing, because the biggest win isn't on the course, it's in the fans' hearts and minds. Now, it's a small bit of copy in the lower left hand corner of that ad. It's a full page ad. And I thought it was really interesting because, for us, it's made up of basically about two images, if not more. But certainly there's the overhead photo of the sand. That's this sort of curvy shape at the top. And then there's a different image that it may or may not be composited of one or two images. It's probably a little more, but I'm going to for this conversation, I'm going to say it's one other image of a golf ball also sitting on a dune of sand. Now these are two different perspectives. One's overhead, the other one is profile. But when you put them together, the picture that you get, right? Oh, excuse me, the image that you get, I should say, the image you get is a question mark, right? If you put these two photographs together, they look like they read as an image of a question mark. And so the copy supports that image. The copy says, what if? And we know that that's a question from just personal experience. And so what you take away from this ad is that if you use this particular company's computing services, you'll be able to get insights into what the fans are concerned with, and therefore you'll be able to increase sales of maybe clubs or vacation packages, whatever it is you're selling. You'll get insights about how they experience golf, either in their own, but most importantly, as they are fans of the professional players. And then the picture you get is that there's a question in your mind. So it's a question mark as an image. It's made up of at least 2 photographs. But the picture that you're getting is that this represents the question in your mind as a business person as to what fans think about, what they are interested in when they look at, or should not look at, but when they watch golf, or when they go shopping for golf equipment for themselves to emulate their favorite players.
Okay, so you said a lot there, and I'm trying to understand when
Wow.
when you said image in your mind. So you used the word image twice, and my understanding is that you used the image twice, but you used them in 2 different ways. One is a mental way, and one is a physical way.
Well, actually, the picture is the mental way. I did kind of correct myself. Maybe didn't catch that. The image would be the visual representation of the question mark, but the picture is the actual question that every business person has in their head about what are my potential customers thinking of when they experience golf, when they watch players play, when they go to watch players play. So the visual representation of the question is that image, right? That's made up of at least 2 photographs, but the picture is really the picture you get in your mind, because that question mark is also a symbol. A question mark is a design element that we use in text in typography, so that people understand that you're seeking information, right? That's a language.
Is it me or does he sound like Mickey Mouse?
It sounds not quite clear, Mark. At least not because the description in the interchangeability and the usage of the 3 different ways in which to describe an image, as we were talking about today, is image, photograph, and picture.
Mm-hmm.
You've interchanged them to a degree that I believe it causes more confusion than being as simple as that.
I disagree. I think if you see the 2 photographs there, right, the overhead view of the sand, the profile view of the sand, those are 2
Okay.
different photographs, right? Those are 2 different photographs. Each one of those pictorial elements is a photograph.
Yeah, but you're then telling us that two photographs together does not make a photograph. It makes something else.
Right, right. The 2 photographs together in this particular advertisement together create the image of a question mark.
Okay, so let me interject for a second. So what happens when you put a diptych together? What does that create?
Well,
Ah,
that
good question.
creates, well, it is in its totality an image of 2 photographs side by side, and you are to experience them together, as opposed to allowing one photograph to exist in its own space.
Okay,
I mean,
all right.
I mean, if you're comparing this question mark image to a diptych, I think that might be where the confusion is. If you, I mean, I'm
Well,
breaking
this
down
this
the
is a
question mark.
this is a photo illustration at this point. It's
Exactly,
not
it's
two
a photo
independent images.
illustration comprised of 2 photographs at least. Now, there may be more, but the one swerve, the sort of the curvy element at the top is definitively an overhead view of sand.
Okay. All right. I was under the impression this was going to be a simpler conversation than
Oh no.
than what we're
When
having.
Well, like I said, you and I, when we speak, the three of us, we tend to use these terms almost interchangeably.
Yeah.
But you presented the idea that we should probably look up these words,
Yes.
which you've done for us. Thank you
Right.
very much. And you've provided specific definitions. I looked around to see what would be the best example of how I could find, what kind of image could I find that really illustrated all of these definitions really well. And so if you have an advertisement that's compositive of multiple images in a way that's very obvious, and it's also creating another image, because sand is not a question mark. Sand is a physical piece of material that when we shape it in a certain way, when we put the grains together, we can make it look like other symbols to ourselves. And in this case, they've assembled these two photographs in a way where we recognize this to be the image that resembles a question mark.
Okay.
But because this advertisement isn't specifically, it's a question that asks a very esoteric question. What's in the minds of your your customer's customer, right? The big picture in this particular ad is, as a business person reading in the Wall Street Journal this particular advertisement, you understand that they're addressing you as a customer because they're concerned about your interaction with your customer.
Okay. All right.
It's a business to business ad rather than a business to consumer ad.
Okay. Hey, Greg, you have any follow-up questions?
Oh, I was just wondering where the ketchup was. No.
Okay.
Well, it's just by the usage, it's difficult to separate the two. They're so used. Can I grab some? They're used so uh, in place of each other
Right.
that it's hard to separate them. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Okay.
no, that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that's actually the point I think I was trying to drive home, which is how do you differentiate the three images, or the three definitions, and how do we get
Thank
here?
you.
When did the term photograph? I didn't go into research as to which came first, photograph, image, or picture. I would, in some ways, I may presume, and this is a presumption, I would figure that picture came first, then photograph, then image. That's my assumption, but I don't know. I'll have to research to find the etymology for each one, and we'll get back to it on a future date, or I'll put it in the link below the description for the video. But I think that actually determines it, because I think as the confusion that has been driving through my mind over the years is, which one do I want to use, and why did semantics, the English language, and I don't know if it's determined to be that way in other languages, which we have to also consider when using these rewords in other languages, if they're the same or if they're different,
Well, I think for us, what happened was we all knew what photography was, and we would refer to a photograph as a picture because it's cumbersome to say, well, I have a photograph with every breath about photography. And I think the word image didn't really come into play for us until photography became a digital medium. And then, we saw digital imaging.
Yeah, yeah. For the sake of time,
Well,
let's go and speak to Greg's what Greg has
is it night?
brought for this
Well,
discussion.
go ahead. I'll say this first
Go
as a
ahead.
preface, and then show the images.
Okay.
I wanted to say that a picture for me is an idea. and an image is the representation of that idea, and a photograph is the combination or the execution of the picture, the image, and the photograph. So a more complete rendering would be a photograph to me. A more complete, instead of you're doing tests, light or composition or such, you have the idea of it, in the picture. And then the image that you make from that idea is the picture. But it may be a big picture, it might be a smaller picture, but then the photograph is like the final canvas, when you start putting your veneers on top to protect the the oils, or
Yeah.
for
I
us, when you fix it. Go ahead.
I think it's funny because Mark is laughing because I think we're really we're
We're
really
saying the
coming
same
to
thing, just different.
exactly.
Well, I was
Yeah.
with you until you said that the photograph was the final, which is the exact opposite of the illustration that I presented, which was that the photograph
That's
was the
fine.
starting point with two different things. But I mean,
Okay.
basically, I think we can agree at least 2/3 of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm here in UCLA, Jackie Robinson Stadium, where the UCLA Bruins are kicking the UC Davis Aggies' butts. And it's Jackie Robinson Day, so I got to have a hot dog.
Okay.
But the other thing, go ahead, you can put the pictures up.
I got this one. So I got the one you called image.
Okay.
Okay, that's showing on the screen now.
Yeah. For me, that one is it's a snippet. I wanted to get the artists on the boardwalk doing what they do. And the idea was that could be a standalone, but it doesn't tell the whole story. No, not for me. So for me, that would just be an image. Go ahead, pop the next one in there.
Okay, this one is called your photograph.
Okay, that one could be a photograph or a picture. Again, I'm trying to illustrate the event, the activity, and this is what I got. I like that. But go ahead, go to the next one.
Okay, and that's the wide one.
Yeah, and for me, in a way, this one is more of a photograph because we have the colors, we have the activity, we have the background foreground. So for me, it feels more like a complete image, where the other one is a little too close, a little too wide. And this one kind of says what I wanted to say. So again, for me, oh wait, I wrote down notes. What's another? You got me going on this one, Ken. Thanks for another wild and crazy topic. But like I think we discussed it before. It starts with a need or desire to take a picture or create an artwork or whatever. Then you have a discovery, lighting, what it is that you want to capture, the imagery, and then you have a visualization or pre-visualization, like Anthony Lang when he sees what he wants to shoot, and then there's the execution, and then for me, I think one of the most important things is the critical thinking after you completed these things. Do you just have an image? Is the idea complete? Do you just have a picture? Is it competent enough to, carry over or stand by itself? Or do you have a photograph or you believe you captured as much and it's saying what you wanted to say as the artist? So that's where I am on those three. And thanks for that topic because it really makes you think about what it is you're doing. And that's what,
Well,
no.
Well, I have to ask you. How does this compare to an actual painting that of someone painting? I mean, he's painting letters. How does it compare?
In terms of
How does
uses of
what
the
compare?
words,
You said this complete image, right, is the photograph. So you see the picture, the image, and the photograph as successive states as opposed to separate states.
Right.
Right. So the question I have, this is the photograph, right?
Yeah,
If one were to paint this rather than to photograph this, would that then be an image, a photograph, or a picture? This exact same composition with these tonalities, a hyper-realistic image. Would this still be a photograph or would that be a painting?
Yeah. Well, I think you could take photograph out of the equation.
If you're painting it,
That's
yeah.
yeah. So, but that would also be a complete image, a final, based on the definition. That final complete idea would be a painting rather than a photograph.
Yeah, I mean that's basically it for me. If you have, for me, a photograph is you've worked out all of the variables. You know, you got there at the right time of day from, studying the light, or if it's an event, like Ken when Ken did that series on the oh my God, San Gennaro Festival of San Gennaro, and he got that woman just biting and the cheese is stringing along. That typifies the image for me. So there are other images, but they don't say photograph as much as that image does because it's a complete thought for me.
Well, I like this photograph a lot. I'm a little distracted by the personal way on the right. I don't think they add to the image, but other than that, person on the right side, I think the rest of it's really nice.
Yeah.
I thought about cropping her out, but that was part of the boardwalk experience. People
Yeah,
doing all kinds of
I
random.
would just want to turn the camera just a little that way, just a little.
I could have easily cropped it out.
Yeah, that's just me.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can cut into that can of paint on the right. Everyone gets its paint, and that
So
might even give you a little more intimacy.
so
Yeah.
have we come to a consensus in terms of we've seen the Webster's definitions, and we've spoken about how you guys see it and how we see it. Does it come to a conclusion that at some point in time you will begin to reference any of your final photographs, as images, or as pictures, in order for the sake of clarity?
I tend to reference them more and more as I get older as photographs. As a matter of fact, if you really catch me on a good day, rather than I speak colloquially with you guys and go, "Oh yeah, I did a shoot," or "You guys did a shoot," but at the end of the day, I try not to even use the word "shoot" referential to photography.
Yeah.
I tend to say I photographed something, I photographed someone, because I really want to be specific about the activity. And I just think, just in general, there's too much gun violence going on right now, and I just don't want to be associated with that term at this point in history.
Yeah, I think there's also another
And I'm
word
sure
usage.
nobody will mistake shoot for actual shooting. I don't think there'll be a problem mistaking the
I
two.
understand. It's just a perspective. I'm not saying it's a hard and fast rule for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. I sort of agree with the usage of that word. I tend to not try to not use it as much. But even in the digital era now, we're now also challenged with the word capture to
Shotgun.
Yeah.
reference it. So now we have to sort of add that one into it. But I don't, and of course, it don't, outside of the word, in order to uh, do a photograph, it has other meanings which are more generally known.
True, but I also think with that capture, not only are you absolutely right, but I think also with the integration of retouching so intimately with contemporary photography for the last 30 years, the idea of a capture is it's kind of going away, and it's really more about the image because so much post processing is done. Even if you take your raw image and you convert it to a JPEG, there's some sort of manipulation that isn't quite the same as taking a negative
See,
and making
see,
a
but
print, or
that's
taking a
also what I'm
slide
talking about.
and making
Is
a print.
the critical thinking is where that would come in, where you're like, oh, I need to add something else. This isn't saying everything I wanted to say. Then it becomes the photograph when you feel you've taken it to a point where either you've exhausted all your options or it's saying what it is that you want to say. Before that,
Well,
it's just an image or a picture for me.
I mean, it. I think with black and white photography, with a lot of printers like Ansel Adams and Eugene Smith, I think that aesthetic, that mid 20th century aesthetic of burning and dodging to add and you know, drama in different areas, that kind of approach to creating a fine print in that way is kind of what a lot of people are doing with these images, these digital images. And I don't feel it's the same for me, but a lot of people are doing the same type of thing. The aesthetic's different, but it's basically the same type of experience. You know, they're spending a lot more time, so to speak, in the dark room rather than taking the actual photo.
Well, that's a choice. You know, some people like the post, you know, the post functions. You know, but again, for me, like I was trying to say, it's, I mean, if you're looking at an image and you're not happy with it and you don't know why, then you probably haven't explored all that you can do with it. You know, that's where I think it's picture and image are the higher or lower forms of a photograph. Once you come to a final, you know, because we
right,
always
but I mean,
we have coming to a final.
right, but there's also the idea that if you're not happy with it, perhaps you did not get the image right when you photographed, and you should
Well, that's what I'm
go
talking about.
back to that subject and try to do the subject again until you've actually gotten the initial photograph correct in your heart,
Well,
rather than
that's where the critical thinking comes in.
right. But it should,
Critical
I believe,
thinking.
should be the beginning as much as possible.
Mm.
Yeah, but come on. I mean, in the real world, I mean, if you're working on imagery, sometimes you don't get it right. You can pre-plan all you want, but there's an element missing, or there's something missing in the final that you're not happy with, and you have to go back in and figure out what does work.
Well, the scope is what works. Is it working specifically for you, or working for a client, working for an image that you cannot repeat, like a news event or a wedding? I mean, you know, the broadness of does it work is probably outside the scope of this particular conversation, but I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, guys. For the sake of brevity, we'll leave it here for now. We thank our viewers for joining us on this conversation. If you have something to add to
Subscribe.
this conversation, please leave a comment below. Hit the subscribe button and check that bell so that you are made aware that we've uploaded a new episode. I thank you for joining us again. Please leave a comment if you have a statement or a comment or even an answer for some of the questions we pose. Please leave a comment. Thank you so much. I'm Kenneth
I got
Nelson.
one last.
Go ahead.
One last part. I or my friends have copyright to that image that I showed today. That image belongs to IBM or the photographer that created it, but we did show that for the sake of educational purposes. And that was
Okay. Thank you. That's Marc Skinner along
Go
with Greg
go
Cleghorn.
Bruins. Go Bruins.
I'm Kenneth Nelson. This has been a journey through photography. Check back again with our next journey. Thanks again. Take care.